30+ years of service. Combat medals, citations. Only man to shoot down 3 enemy planes in the last 40 years. Yet you can't get a promotion, you won't retire. Despite your best efforts, you refuse to die. You should be at least a 2-star admiral by now. Yet here you are. Captain. Why is that?
It's one of life's mysteries, sir.
The end is inevitable, Maverick. Your kind is headed for extinction.
Maybe so, sir. But not today.
This is Logos Theater 3000, and we are back, Matt and Bill, and we're talking about Top Gun Maverick, which, Bill, I don't know if you know this history, but we saw this movie together.
I remember.
Yeah.
I forgot that you were there. I was at the theater.
Yeah, we saw this movie together, and yeah, I think in a lot of ways we could talk about the movie, which is not that complicated of a story. But secondly, this is like you lived this life a bit, so you can talk more about your personal experience. And I would love to kind of ask you if some of the characters in this story or in the Top Gun universe, if there's anyone in your past, you don't have to mention any names, are similar to some of these characters. Because obviously it's generalizing Navy pilots, and it probably is hitting the mark in some areas, I would assume. So you could talk definitely about that. I think that would be very interesting. And I'll say this as well on the front end, that while you lived this life, I was a child who kind of was obsessed with Top Gun and Navy pilots and aircraft carriers and F-14s and all this sort of stuff, because this movie came out when I was like really little, and I loved this movie. And so much so, the original Top Gun, and so much so that like I had a Top Gun jacket, because just to kind of, we could talk a little bit about your background too, but my grandfather was in the Navy. My great-grandfather was in the Navy. And then my dad was in the Navy, and my brother's in the Navy. So like, there's a lot of Navy history in both of our families, which is kind of interesting. And I just loved fast planes, and it was such a cool thing for me. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to watch the movie with you. I'm like, this guy lived this life. This is, I would love to kind of reminisce with that. So with that being said, I'm not sure where you want to jump in. This is a lot of things you can talk about in regards to like the life that these guys live, the cockiness, which is obviously very much there. And yeah, I don't know where you would like to start in regards to your kind of personal connection
I'll say
to Top Gun.
Yeah, I grew up watching the first one as well. I remember my parents had it on VHS, and they let me watch the first 5 minutes as much as I wanted, because after that, then they get into the O Club, and there's like a sex scene in there that's not appropriate for 5-year-olds. But the opening stuff where they're flying off the carrier and cougars having trouble
Oh yeah.
landing and all that exciting. Yeah. So I watched that more times than I can count. Um, yeah, so similar. My family's all Navy. My dad was a Navy pilot. My grandfather on the other side of the family was a Navy pilot. I was Navy pilot. It was kind of bred
The
into
family
me, I guess. I
business.
don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so what yeah, talk more about like how accurate do these movies get it in regards to the personalities,
Well,
especially and
yeah.
all those
I
different
mean,
matters.
certainly, like the characters are all like caricaturized, right? Yeah, it's got to be good movie making material, but like it is exciting. Like it's super fun, pulling G's and going upside down. And there's big personalities, but also a lot of nerdy guys as well. It's a whole range of people. Um, but the one thing that was different for me than I expected and not really portrayed in this movie is that like when you're a Navy pilot, you're an officer first. You're a
Mm,
leader of sailors, that's your primary job, and you're a pilot second. Um, and so that was, a little bit not what I expected in like real life Navy flying because like I just really love flying airplanes. But it makes sense that the most important part of your job is supposed to be, looking after your sailors and making sure that you're doing your part to help the squadron run correctly. And the flying comes second. So, but the flying is certainly the most fun part. Um, being on the aircraft carrier, I lived on the carrier for like 6 months on one stint, and then I did part of another workup cycle for deployments. And um, so I had like lots of at sea periods. A lot of guys have much more time at sea than I do. But it's kind of a unique life, living, eating, sleeping, working out, just everything is on the boat, just miles
mm.
and miles from land. And it's kind of neat to go outside on the flight deck, early in the morning and see the sunrise over this neon blue ocean. It's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, so talking about so this is Top Gun Maverick. Let me read the synopsis. This is the long-awaited sequel to the original Top Gun movie in the 80s. That I guess made Tom Cruise a star. I guess is kind of the kind of the view. More than 30 years after becoming one of the Navy's most legendary fighter pilots, Pete Maverick Mitchell is still pushing limits and avoiding promotion so he can keep flying. When he's called back to Top Gun to train a new generation of elite pilots for a nearly impossible mission, Maverick must confront his past, especially through Bradley Rooster Bradshaw, the son of his late best friend Goose, who died in the accident in the first movie. As the mission approaches, Maverick must teach these young pilots not only how to survive combat, but how to trust one another, face fear, and become more than talented individuals. You mentioned that about like leading, which I think is a major part of this movie, is that Maverick really isn't a leader. He's just kind of views himself as a pilot. I guess is that kind of the
Uh,
reason why he's this
that
decorated pilot who's only a captain and never gone any further than that.
I mean, captain's pretty senior ranking officer. I think, one part, it probably wouldn't make for as exciting as a film, but, all the work that goes into your job as a Navy pilot when you're not in the airplane, which you're really in the airplane maybe 2, 3 hours a day,
Right.
and you still got a full work day of stuff that goes along with that besides mission planning and debriefing. Like, when you're a junior officer in like a fighter squadron, there's really only maybe 15, 16 pilots, I guess, in a squadron, and
Mm,
there's hundreds of enlisted men who um, run the books, fix the airplanes, do all the maintenance, a lot of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And so, in a squadron like I was in, with a single seat squadron, we had just a few pilots, we had even fewer airplanes. But there's just a million things to do outside of the airplane. So, you'd have all these collateral jobs. When I first showed up to the squadron, I was 24 years old. Um, probably most of the enlisted guys were probably older than I was and had been in the Navy far longer. But I was a legal officer, never having been to legal school. I was in the safety department, never having been to safety school. I was a division officer. There's 50 sailors who um, are in various shops like running, fixing the engines. There's avionics guys that are fixing all the computer stuff in the airplane. There's corrosion control. There's all these guys have their specialties, and the most important part of my job, which honestly I did not do really well. Looking back now, in my mid 40s, there's a lot of things I could have done better.
Mhm.
But really, helping them, have the tools and the things they need, not like physical tools, but the the giving them the visibility to be able to do their jobs well so that I can do my job well.
Right.
But that was a huge part. But one of the things also that I look back on and didn't appreciate as much as I could have was in the airplane, the camaraderie among the pilots. That's one thing the movies get, is the
Hmm.
camaraderie, because it really does feel like a sports team. I played soccer when I was a kid, and you'd have your guys that were top shelf, and the guys that were you were building up and helping them improve their skill set. And you're almost at practice, like running plays, doing drills, um, and then when you finish your day, you go and hang out together afterwards, for a meal, or you go to the old club and have a couple of drinks. And it was built a lot of camaraderie, and that was a super fun thing about being a pilot in a Navy squadron. And probably a little bit different than some of the other squadrons that might have, like for example, like a P3 squadron, where there's you know a whole crew of guys, maybe seven or eight. I actually don't even know how many people are on that airplane, but
Right.
they might have like 50 officers in a squadron, where they aren't run so ragged with their collateral duties. So, whereas I had like five jobs in addition to being a pilot in the squadron, each of those guys might have one job and they can do it really well.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a different culture as well. Um, but super super neat way to make a living.
So would you say like the Maverick Honda relationship was is actually he was kind of his like I don't know what his actual
Oh yeah.
function
Are
was,
you, are
but
you
he was
talking
kind of
about?
his like right hand man guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I never really observed anything like that, where the same dude kind of followed him around like a
Yeah.
squire from place to
Yeah.
place. Yeah,
That's
that
kind of what
was
he
probably
was.
a little
Here's your
unrealistic.
shield, sire. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It felt, that actually was I wonder if the directors kind of did that on purpose, because it made it kind of feel like a knight and a squire kind
Yeah.
of relationship. Um, but like in real life in the Navy, like you are assigned to a squadron, and it comes with its host of other pilots and enlisted men, and you're given your team, and you make your team work. You don't bring your team with you to different duty stations. But of course, you're going to cross paths with guys again. Um, the so I flew the Super Hornet, and that F-18 community is relatively small. So you stay in that business long enough, you'll come across the same faces over time. Um, but yeah, that particular relationship probably was not one that I saw in my time.
Yeah. It was actually, I think. in a lot of ways the most relatable like
Yeah.
relationship in the movie, and he actually has some really good lines in the movie. Like he's like, "That selfie's not funny anymore." You know, when they're like taking a photo of, I think when Rooster had to do push-ups, and then all of a sudden they get,
Yeah.
obviously they get pinged as well, so they had to do fine. So he had some really good
Yeah.
funny lines, and so he added some good
Hmm.
humor to the movie. And I think it was someone who's been a fan of the movie, the original, for so long, and then going to see this movie, which I think is pretty much, obviously this is subjective, but saved Hollywood, because if we remember the movie, it was meant to come out but then COVID happened, and they decided to wait
Oh
and
yeah.
not bring it out into the theaters. So they brought it out. I think this was like 2022. So they waited quite a long time to actually release it,
Yeah.
and it made a lot of money, and everyone was just excited to be back in the theater, and it was such a good theater movie. I mean, it was
Oh yeah.
so well made. It was, ridiculous. And
Yeah.
obviously, the director, Kaczynski, spawned him doing the Formula One movie, which is not as good because obviously no one knows the characters, but it's similarly like shot, like just an extra, just an, I don't even like. They need to come out with like all the technical background documentary on making that movie, because you probably know the
There's
people who
there's a
did the
comp
movies. Yeah,
yeah, there's a company that all they do is film aerial shots like that. And they actually came, I taught flight school in Meridian, Mississippi for a while, and there's a documentary on Hulu and Nat Geo somehow connected about the Navy flight school where students first get into jets. And they had that same company that filmed Top Gun, from what I'm told, do that as well. And I had some buddies that were still teaching down there send me some pictures of their jet. They had the big had kind of an eyeball camera mounted outside the jet, and they could pan around um and film all that stuff. And so that documentary, I think it's called Top Guns.
okay,
And there's maybe two seasons of that. That's actually pretty neat. I know a lot of the guys that were involved in that whole thing, and that's a dramatized version of Navy Flight
sure.
School, but still pretty entertaining. I liked it.
So again, I think it's a fun movie. It's very much like shot for shot, like like a repeat of the first movie. Like everything is like
Yeah,
shot for shot, and in some ways, which I think is
yeah,
fine. Like I think there's nothing wrong with that in any ways. And I don't know if you noticed. I didn't notice the first three times I watched it, but when he's flying is it called the Black Star, that like futuristic
mhm.
plane at the beginning of the movie?
Oh
Did you see the
yeah, yeah.
Lockheed Martin logo on the?
Oh, the Skunk Works thing,
Yeah,
or is that what that was? Yeah,
I think it was exactly, yeah, the skunk work. I
yeah,
saw it like on one of the shots where like I
yeah.
don't know how much they paid for the little like logo there, but like you could
I
tell
don't
like
know.
this was definitely Lucky Martin underneath one of the, like, I don't know if it was like his accelerator stick or something like that. So I was like, there's a few little things I kind of caught that, and there's a skunk on the state on another stick. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's Skunk Works.
Yeah, it's Skunk Work, exactly. Which I've
They
read the
do all
book.
the
Yeah, yeah,
secret airplane development. I don't know anything about that, what they had. Although a part of me wonders, do you remember when Transformers came out and they had the futuristic Corvette in there before, or I guess it was the Camaro before the new Camaro had gotten released?
yeah,
And
yeah.
we're like, wow, that Camaro looks awesome. Like, and then all of a sudden the Camaro
It
is
comes
out there,
out.
the same one. Like, what if that airplane's real?
Well, it definitely looked like a Blackbird, a SR, right? That was kind of like squeezed. Yeah, that was kind of like pressed
Yeah,
together. That is
yeah.
a cool book. If anyone is interested in like aviation history, that's a good, like, Skunk Work is a good, interesting book, because you have like the U-2 spy plane that got
Yeah.
shot down during Cold War, and that led to the Cuban Missile Crisis, and different other things. But anyways, that was kind of cool. And as you think about the movie, even if you're wondering like, why does people hate Maverick so much? Is it because he's just so good at his job and people are just jealous? Or like, what is it about him? So
I
like
mean,
Cyclone, the John Hamm character hates him. The Admiral
yeah.
Kane hates the guy. It's like, what's what the Maverick hate, man? Like he seems like a pretty nice guy.
Well, yeah. Well, so, I mean, he certainly carries a reputation from the first movie as being a pretty self-centered person. Um, but there is, quite a bit of competitiveness in real life, in that world as well. It's mostly good-natured, but there's some personality rubs. And I think anybody with a strong personality is going to develop some enemies along the way. Um, but one of the things the military thrives on is unity, you know, as a strength, right? We all wear the same uniform,
Right,
and Maverick is certainly kind of a Lone Ranger, personality. I don't know what archetype that would be called personality wise,
right.
but he marches to his own beat. He's very confident, but that doesn't always work, practically in real life as well. Like think about, if you're on a soccer team or basketball team and you've got like one superstar who doesn't want to be a team player, like that doesn't always spell success for the team. The coach wants team players, and Maverick doesn't always seem to be a team player, although he does, obviously come around,
Yeah,
in this movie, and it becomes like the ultimate team player,
right.
which is a cool redemption arc, I think. But I think that
Is
that
that
probably,
Iceman's like? I mean, obviously, Iceman, played by Val Kilmer, is this
yeah,
huge. He's an admiral of the Pacific Fleet. He has a
yeah.
lot of authority.
We can start calling Iceman Barnabas for this conversation.
Yeah, yeah, because he seems like he understands Maverick's value,
Yeah,
unlike everyone else.
yeah.
He seems like he's a guy who doesn't. He's unconventional, and that's actually what we need is unconventional
Well,
thinking.
he certainly him and Maverick have bonded through, like a trial by fire.
Right,
And they trust each other, they're, from Iceman's perspective, Maverick is very reliable because he always delivers what he's supposed to. Um, that's a FedEx joke, by the way.
that is a good
Uh,
SNL skit, by the way. Iceman as
yeah.
the pilot of like a Delta flight. It's a good one. People should
Oh
go
yeah,
watch it.
yeah. Saturday Night Live, that's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I think Iceman recognizes Maverick's value, and they have a pretty deep connection from their past. But the guy like John Hamm's character comes in and he despises
Yeah,
um,
just
Maverick, right?
despises the
But then
guy.
yeah, well, apparently they don't have any shared value beyond, commitment to their job,
Right.
and John Hamm's character, they, recognizes Maverick as kind of like a solo Lobo, just doing things his own way, and that doesn't help the team.
Right.
So I think that's probably where that comes from. And the guy, and too, like in the squadron life, guys who kind of just do their own thing and don't integrate with the squadron culture, they are not always successful either. Um, yeah, so we sometimes joke that with a smaller squadron there's fewer room for knuckleheads, so we could kind of
Mm,
like force everybody to assimilate to the
sure.
team mindset. um you know that there may be something to that.
There's not only are you a former Navy pilot, but you also own a Ford Bronco. So the scene where Rooster comes into the bar, like leaving his Ford Bronco, like I don't think I
Yeah.
remembered that he drove that car. So I'm like, oh man, dude, this guy he's he's a fighter pilot. He's got a mustache,
Yeah, he's
and
he's
he's
just
driving
he's
his
just
Ford
oozing
Bronco.
cool, isn't he?
I mean,
Yeah.
this is like
He
everyone
drives a
wanted to be
real
Miles
Bronco
Taylor,
though.
and this is the second movie we've done with him in it. By the way, this
Yeah.
podcast is not very old, and we've already gotten two Miles Teller movies in
Yeah.
there. So I think the movie has. I mean, it's one of those movies that like everything's building up to like really cool scenes, and so like the first dogfighting scene is like a great rewatch. I mean, you can watch that over and over again. It's super fun.
Yeah.
It's got some good lines in it, and it's a fun to watch. And then obviously, like when Maverick does the desert run that he does like the in 215, like that's a pretty intense scene. It's pretty cool. And then obviously like the actual mission scene and then the weird kind of like behind enemy lines scene that ended
Mhm.
up taking over, which is a huge surprise in the movie. You assume he dies, and then all of a sudden it becomes like a rescue and
Yeah.
buddy rescue
Yeah.
movie, which you didn't know that was going to fall
Hmm.
into that. But the two kind of major, I would say the two kind of scenes that really present like the heart of the movie, and what I wanted to kind of let you talk to you a little bit about this is number one, when Maverick gets kicked out of the bar and he's kind of like looking through the window, there you could just sense, and of course his kind of like on and off again girlfriend who was just mentioned in the first movie, and now he's actually in this
Yeah.
movie, Penny, which is great. Callback.
Penny Benjamin, the Admiral's
Yeah,
daughter.
the Admiral's daughter, who knows how to sail a boat. She notices like there's like a lot of regret that Maverick
Mm.
has. And then the second scene is the scene with Iceman, which I think is like probably the best scene of the movie. Like I think it's just really good. So like obviously like there's the kind of the weight of Maverick's regret is number one, his Goose dies because of I still often he feels like it was his fault, even when people tell him it wasn't his fault. He dies. He was the pilot. He died under his care, so he takes the blame and the weight of that. And then obviously his son or Goose's son, which is Rooster, he not only loses his father, but then Maverick pulls his paper for the Naval Academy, so he doesn't go to the
Which
Naval
really
Academy.
isn't a thing, by the way.
Well, I assume like I'm like, what
Yeah.
is that anyways?
It sounds good.
Yeah, I mean it works. I think most people are like, okay, yeah, sure. I guess they could do that. But that yeah, he pulled his paper, so he hurt his career. I guess that's kind of the general thing. He obviously we
Yeah.
find out he did it under his because Goose's wife, Rooster's mom, asked him to,
Mm.
and passed away. Um, and so that's kind of, I mean, a lot of the heart of the movie is kind of Maverick's regret and
Yeah.
not being, I guess, a father figure for him that he
Yeah, he
wishes he would
certainly
have been.
feels responsible for him, and he, questions. He doesn't want, obviously doesn't want to lose Rooster as well under his care. Like
Right.
that's what put. Um, and so he's just very protective of him. But
And obviously he doesn't want to actually put him in the mission because he
yeah,
realizes that there's a good chance he might die too. But if he doesn't put
yeah,
him there, he'll blame
yeah.
him, and so it's kind of he's in a lose situation, I guess.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, so they think that kind of at the heart of the movie, and it's just regret and how do you move on from like past mistakes in
Mhm.
particular. And I think you're right. Like you mentioned, Iceman being kind of Barnabas, being this kind of like an encouragement and a friend to him,
Mhm.
and not just bailing him out when he needs to be bailed out, but it seems like Iceman really like cares for him, and there's that
Yeah, he
scene
does.
where and I think him not speaking makes that scene so much more powerful when he's like
Yeah.
typing and says that you've got to let it go, and he just like points
Mhm.
at that screen. And I think that like it was a really good scene and a pretty like popcorn movie,
Yeah.
like plane flying really fast and stuff like that, that you have a person who's struggling to move on in his life from really the accident with Goose in the first movie, and
Yeah.
that kind of keeping being a shadow in his life that kind of haunts him.
Yeah. Well, I really like the Iceman's role in this one. I mentioned he could be kind of like Barnabas, right? Um, because like he's an encourager.
Mhm.
He continues to push Maverick on when Maverick is experiencing some self-doubt. Um, even you know, Paul's kind of like a late addition to the early church, right? I mean, he's early relatively, but he doesn't he's not on board right away. But and Barnabas is really kind of senior to Paul initially, and kind of steps back to let Paul, kind of blossom as the as a early church leader. Iceman is the admiral, and
Mhm.
uh, Maverick is just a captain, even though
Right.
captain's not really a junior guy. But he is he's an encourager, right? And
Mhm.
I thought that kind of had a neat parallel. I don't know if you recognize that at all, or
Yeah, I
maybe
wasn't.
even agree.
No, I wasn't thinking Barnabas, but I think it's really helpful, and it was so cool because I don't know, this probably resonated far more with you because you lived that world of like officers and rank, but in that scene, you didn't sense that was an admiral and a captain talking, but it was like two peers,
Mm,
and they were
yeah.
friends, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
respect towards one another, and
They're kind of like
if you go,
they're kind of like brothers. Yeah.
yeah, like brothers, and you go from that first movie where they were rivals, and
Hmm.
then they have
Yeah.
that at the end of the movie, they kind of like embrace, and
Yeah.
and you wonder, and you kind of pick up in the movie like that. How they ended the first movie is actually their relationship onward. Is that they became this like
Hmm.
really close niche, and obviously Iceman recognizes Maverick's special ability that he is an extraordinary pilot, and
Yeah.
and he probably doesn't fit the Navy system
Yeah. The
well,
mold.
but
He doesn't fit the mold.
he doesn't fit the mold, but he's needed, and Iceman
Yeah.
sees that, and
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. Like that whole scene is just, I think, really brings a lot of depth to the movie. That I think without that scene, I don't know. Like it's still a fun movie, but I don't think it has the heart um, that it needed, and I think that really
Yeah.
helped the movie. And yeah, it makes me, I think, and I think maybe their age also helps because they're later in their life. They're like what, I don't know, in their late 50s, early 60s at that point. I don't know what Maverick's age is supposed to be. I know it's like remarkable for someone that age to fly a plane that way. But that's the same issue with the Formula One racing movie too. It's like I think Brad Pitt's like 58. I don't think he's driving a Formula One car. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's a movie. But I think their age, like that whole like rivalry thing, was stupid. Anyways, it was it
Yeah.
was juvenile. And I think it
Yeah.
speaks to even like male friendship that you
Hmm.
can get so fixated on your like what rewards and accomplishment you receive from the masses
Hmm.
that you
Yeah.
ignore like, hey, I got a guy who knows what it feels like. I got a guy who understands the life, and I don't care if he's like a higher rank. I don't care if he's has more accolades or is respected more by
Yeah.
the masses. Like that's somebody I want to like rely upon. And obviously, Mavic really relied upon him. And you could even in the text message scenes, like you could just
Yeah.
tell like Maverick needed Iceman, or he would have been kicked out a long time ago. And I think that's just
What's
cool.
the
Like,
what's the in Philippians? But we were just talking about this the other day in a small group that I'm in where it's eh, Paul is talking to Iodia and Ty. I can't remember the other girl's name, but they're having a
Seneca,
spat, right?
yeah,
Yeah, okay, there
yeah,
you go.
Seneca, yeah,
And he says, you gotta put that
yeah,
aside for
that's
the
right.
greater mission here, which is proclaiming Christ. You both have done great work, but like don't let this small thing inhibit
Mm,
you from your mission. And kind of it seems like Maverick and Iceman have been able to do that. They put their spat aside to accomplish the mission, you know, and their friendship is deeper because of it.
Yeah, and then you
Uh,
see
so
even Iceman helping him with Rooster, like, um, and I think Iceman even recognizes like that relationship is really important to Maverick. Like he needs to be a father figure to this to Rooster. Like
yeah,
there's a depth to that relationship that both of them need that, and he's so helpful. And Maverick listens to him. Like he doesn't argue, he doesn't dismiss it. Like he's very attentive to his counsel and wisdom, and you see Maverick taking that advice. And
yeah.
I think that's really. I still think that of all the scenes in that movie, that's still my favorite scene. Even though it has nothing to do with
Mm.
planes, it has nothing to do with shooting missiles. It has to do with like
Yeah,
two men who respect each other and in a sense love each
mm,
other, and I think
yeah.
it was really well done. With that being said, I wanted to talk about Hangman. He's a psycho in the movie. He's weird
Mhm.
with the whole toothpick and the weird looks and like the smiles. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, like you have a very punchable face. Like you just like you're such a psycho. Now he does save the day at the end of the movie, and but
Yeah.
going back to your past, how many guys did you interact with that were kind of like him? That just kind of this,
Oh,
like I
yeah.
mean, like the quote himself, like "you look good," "oh, I am good," like that whole like, dude, like
Yeah.
what is wrong with you? And you
That's
can
that's
tell like they don't like him. Like he's just like
yeah.
he's like kind of a squadron to himself, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a Hollywood trope, I think, for fighter
Okay,
pilots. Like there certainly is like a reputation among like single guys as being super full of themselves. But that attitude gets, beaten out of them pretty quickly because you can't be successful as a team of one in that environment. Yeah, that's it makes for a good movie, but
yeah.
those guys don't make it.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
like he is such a psycho, and like
Yeah,
I
he's a jerk.
yeah, he's a jerk, and I think I mean he got a pretty good line in the movie, like "this is your savior speaking." Like it was a really good line.
Yeah,
I
that's
always
funny.
I always anticipate it when it comes, and I really like it. So
Yeah.
what about the and I will even like that whole like attitude. You even said it like that. You don't go very far. I love for that. Like it may be a trope in movies, but like the cocky, like I don't need anyone attitude. It's just like
Yeah.
it's not it's not biblically helpful. And going back to the Maverick Iceman, like Maverick can't do all those things by himself. Like there's a need
No.
for community
Yeah.
and people to speak
Yeah.
wisdom into you. And I think
Hmm.
unfortunately, like Hangman's just kind of like a comic relief part of this movie. Like
Yeah.
he's not.
Yeah.
There is no redemptiveness to Hangman. Like there's no point where he's like, I think I'm a jerk. Maybe I should stop being like. There
Yeah.
is that scene, and there's
Well,
a scene where he
he
kind of.
doesn't, yeah, he doesn't really have a personality redemption, but
No, he doesn't.
where he does kind of save them in the very last scene, flying scene there. Um, that does speak to, there always being hope in a hopeless situation because from
Right?
our perspective watching the movie, like Maverick and Rooster are toast. I
They
mean,
are.
they're out of airspeed, they're out of weapons. This, terrifying, enemy fighter is about to shoot them out of the sky. Maverick's just like basically saying a prayer, like, please just, I'm so sorry, please save us. He has
Yeah.
no hope.
Right.
And then just
Right.
boom, out of nowhere, unexpected deliverance comes, even at the hand of someone who's not super noble.
No.
Um,
No.
so I mean that there's actually there's I see some biblical parallel there. I mean, God even uses the unrighteous to accomplish his plan. And, you
Yeah.
know, you think about how hopeless the disciples were when Jesus is getting crucified. They think it's over. It's hopeless. And
Yep.
then, God surprises everyone with an unexpected, arrival of deliverance.
That's right.
So
That's such a good point.
I really do like that.
That is such a good point. I mean, you're right. He's saying like sorry, like Goose,
Yeah,
I didn't protect them, and we're about to
yeah,
die, and all of a
yeah,
sudden they're relieved, right? And
yeah,
they're
yeah.
rescued. And
And it's outside of Maverick's control. He did
it
everything he knew
is.
how to do. But the result was not within his control at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point. I there you know there's really nothing. I want to go back, and then we can talk about something else if you want to. But the end of the movie, I think it's like. Anyways, I'm gonna say this on online, and like I'm I'm happily married, but Jennifer Connelly in the Porsche is just an awesome scene. I think it's an awesome scene. And it's like, and that's why like people believe that maybe Maverick died because it's like he's in like pilot heaven. He's got Jennifer Connelly. There's his Porsche, and then he's like, fixing up his World War II P-51, which is a gorgeous plane. And
Yeah, yeah,
like you get this like happy ending to the
yeah,
story, and you know really life it doesn't necessarily have these like happy heavenly bows, right? That
mm,
says
yeah. That's
like
true. That's
all is
true.
good and all the problems have gone away. You and Rooster are now this like adopted father, whatever type relationship, and now you have this girl that you've
Yeah,
everything's always failed, and now she's in your life, and she's in the back of your beautiful plane, and and you're this big hero and you're an ace now. You have 5 confirmed kills, like all these different things.
yeah.
And it's
It's too
like
good to be true.
it's too good to be true. And actually some people one of their complaints about Tom Cruise is that he doesn't allow himself to be a hero that dies. Like
Hmm.
I had not seen the new like top Mission Impossible movie, but like if you watch some of Tom Cruise's movies, he's always the winner, and he always has these kind of like happy endings. Like he's always seen as this kind of like he's the hero that wins the day, and then this kind of thing. And I think going back to your point, like Jesus is the hero who dies. Like
Yeah,
he doesn't like he dies. He experienced death in a humiliating way, and Maverick sacrifices himself to save Rooster, but then all of a sudden he's rescued, right? And everything just kind of
yeah,
works its way out, and that's really not the the biblical story. Paul dies, Peter dies.
yeah,
All the
yeah,
biblical heroes, like their like earthly hope isn't in like these kind of happy endings. Like their hope is in like the resurrection in the future. So
yeah,
I do think this movie has like even if he doesn't die and this is like all this kind of like this weird dream thing, it does kind of end with this kind of like Maverick has this, he gets to walk out in the sunset in this kind of like
yeah,
perfect heavenly life. Yeah.
yeah. Did you ever see The Rocketeer when you were a kid?
I did. It's been a
I
long
loved that
time.
movie. That's
Okay.
Jennifer Connelly also.
It is Jennifer Connelly, that's right. It is I there's this movie is fun. I always wondered like they almost these pilots like they almost act as if they're like special ops. I don't know if you got that idea. Like they seem like these
Mm,
elite pilots who get brought
yeah,
in to do like an elite mission. And like, the way you've been talked is so different than reality. These aren't like Delta forces who are like cowboys who show up on their steed
yeah,
to like kill the bad guy and then go back out into the sunset. Like
yeah.
it kind of gives
Well,
this idea that they're
these
these special op kind of guys. The dagger, even their
I
like
know
call names.
these oh the call sign like dagger that's one that we use in
Okay.
training. Yeah, different call signs like that have different functions in a like a large force strike. I don't want to get into that too much, but like there's common call signs we use and dagger's one of them. Um, Based on what your role in a mission might be. But as far as that special forces type of mindset, I think that certainly appeals to like modern audience because the SEALs and the Delta Force and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's a more prevalent. thing in our military culture than it, has been in the past. I think, all the stuff going on in Iran right now, they whatever carrier's on deployment, that's who's going over there, and the squadrons will, do the missions. For something like if there was a situation like this, I don't see how the movie built it, how if that's how it
Yeah,
would actually happen. I That seems a little bit unrealistic to me.
right.
Because everybody those guys that they have trying to make this team to do the special mission, like they're all Top Gun graduates. I mean, they are probably like the premier people available to do this type of flying, but everybody who flies that airplane is trained to do
Right.
that type of mission.
Right.
That what they do when they fight their way in, drop their bombs and fight their way back out. That's kind of what the F-18 was built to do. It's called a self-escort strike. And to be able to do air to air and then air to ground, then air to air type of fighting again, all in the same mission it's kind of like a specialty for that airplane. So they got that part right.
Yeah. Yeah, this idea of like bringing in like your best of your best to train for like a specialty mission for 3 weeks. It's
Yeah, as far as
exactly
like
what
breaking up
special ops is.
squadrons to go do one mission,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't see that happening.
So did you
No.
just for fun, did you catch some of the Star Wars? I don't know if this was meant to be Star Wars references, but like I just like for some reason like just was so like aware of them. But like so they said like the hole after like in the that they needed to drop the bomb was 3 meters wide. Well, like the ventilation shaft for the
Uh,
Death Star was like 2 to 3 meters wide.
oh,
And
I
so I
didn't pick
caught
up on
that. I caught that,
that.
and then I was like, I didn't know the Navy trained in like Jedi arts, but it's like don't think, just do. Like, what a stupid remark! Like that's it's so
Oh, that
dumb.
was left over from the first movie. Yeah, if you think you're
Yeah,
dead. Yeah,
you
that was
think you're dead.
Maverick's
I'm like,
like, no, no, you gotta think.
no, yeah, I think you need to think. I was just like, what a stupid piece of advice. Yeah, that was in the first movie. So he's like, if you think up there, you're dead. I'm like, no, I think it's the other way around. So I was like, is that
Maybe.
Yoda? Like Top Gun decided to like, we're gonna do our training, like, but if Yoda did it, if
Yeah,
you don't do, I mean, you don't try, you just do. It's like this
yeah,
is that the best they
yeah.
could come up with? And they kept on saying it over and over and over again, and it's like, well, how stupid. And I think that even that advice is so like, the scripture is so clear. Like
Well,
we are to think, we are to be like
yeah.
intentional, we're to be
Well,
diligent and
yep,
vigilant in these different
yep.
things, not just
Well,
on our whim, just go and do something.
yeah. I kind of like the Star Wars version better of,
Don't try,
do or do
do.
not, there is no
Yeah,
try
there's no
versus
try.
the don't think, just do. Because there's one thing that I did think of. I went to the Naval Academy, and during plebe summer, you have to memorize a whole bunch of different things. And one of the things that we had to memorize during plebe summer was a very short part of a speech from Teddy Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." Are you
Uh-huh.
familiar with that?
I am.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it real quick because
Sure,
it's
yeah,
good.
that's good. Yeah, yeah.
So he did this in 1910 in Paris, and here's what it is. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points at how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Mm.
Um, and so when you talk about diligence and those sort of things, certainly I think of that. Um, and Yeah. Have you ever heard someone say like, their favorite quote in the Bible is God helps those who help themselves?
Oh yeah,
That's not in the Bible.
that's not in
It's
the
not in the
Bible.
Bible, but like, yeah. The like kind of an intersection between our responsibility to act and do things as people, where it intersects with God's sovereign control. Because we're not simply like robots. Like we
Right.
are volitional people with the ability to act and do things but we're not compulsed by God to do this or that. So the line is a little blurry on where that intersection is. But as people, as Christians living in the world, we do have an obligation to act and to do things. And we do fall short, we fail, but we also have the strength and the gumption to get up and do it again. I think that's this man in the arena quote is not explicitly a Christian reference or
Mhm.
ideal necessarily. It's a secular concept, but I think it has wisdom for Christians who have a hard job to do.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And you don't want to overthink things. You don't want to like
Uh,
be so like paralyzed by. And I think Rooster's character is kind of brings that out. He's afraid, like he holds
yeah,
back a lot, and I
yeah,
think that's kind of the point. Like, just man, get it, like go, like trust
yeah,
what you know,
yeah,
and you're gonna maybe make a mistake here or there, but learn from it. But you gotta act. And I
yeah.
think there that is a theme of the movie, like lost opportunities. Like yeah, Maverick's lost opportunities with Penny, who has seemed like this on and off
Mhm,
again thing, and then Rooster's lost opportunities by being afraid of making mistakes and holding back, and that's
mhm,
kind of the
yeah,
point, the kind of the slant on him. So I think obviously we can't manipulate everything. We have to trust the Lord, and when the Lord provides opportunities, and we believe that those are in His will, we pursue them. And obviously, and that's where the Iceman character comes in. It's where the wisdom of others help in that, where it's
mhm,
like this you're needed here, or this is something you should continue to pursue because this is important and you're needed. And I think there's a good like structure there of Iceman being just a helpful friend to Maverick, so that Maverick can be the father figure that he needs to be for Rooster,
yeah,
and for
yeah,
Rooster to be the leader, because it seems like Rooster is the hence why he was kind of picked. He is a good, like, people like him, like people trust him. He's willing to
mhm,
sacrifice himself for
yeah,
others. He's
yeah.
someone
He's a
that
he's a loyal he's a
people
loyal friend.
yeah, people like respect him and they're willing to follow him. Unlike Hangman, who like,
Yeah,
that guy like he'll kill himself. Like he'll hang you out to
yeah,
dry. Like that's kind of who he
yeah,
is. Um, and so there is a good layer of kind of that generational or legacy of wisdom and passing down important information and wisdom to others. And
yeah.
I think that's a heart of the movie, around the whole like fighter pilots and going
Uh-huh.
fast and doing all those things. And so I think that's what makes a movie so popular and why people like it. So to end, I wanted to see if you caught these people in the movie.
Okay.
Okay, so Iceman's wife, did you recognize her?
No. What else is she in?
She's the daughter and father of the bride.
Really?
Yes. So the Steve Martin movie,
Yeah,
Father
no,
of the
I've seen it a
Bride,
bunch. Yeah,
she
I like
is
that
the
movie.
daughter.
She's the
Yes,
daughter.
she's the daughter.
Huh.
So she plays Iceman's wife.
Okay.
She's only
Okay.
in it for like a short bit, but
No, I remember her role in the movie. I'm trying to picture
she's definitely older
Father
in
of the
this
Bride.
movie. Yeah. Here's
Yeah.
the other one. This one's better.
Okay.
I don't even think he has a line in the movie, but probably the best and funniest character in The Good Place, who is our Jaguars fan, Jason
He's in the
Mendoza.
movie?
He
Yeah.
plays
No, he
Fritz.
always
He
he
plays
plays
one of the
who?
pilots He plays one of
Really?
the pilots who I don't think has a line in the movie, but his name is Fritz.
I did not recognize him.
It,
Wow.
it seemed like him, and I was like, I don't know if that's for sure him. And then I looked it up.
You look
Now
him up?
that dude,
Wow.
not only was he Jason Mendoza, who is awesome in The Good Place, he's so
Yeah,
funny.
he's the biggest Blake Bortles fan
He's the
there
best
is.
Bortles, but he plays the Sith bad guy in the new Star Wars TV show, The Acolyte.
Wow.
So that boy, like,
Interesting.
yeah. So,
Okay.
anyways, I know there's a Good Place reference. There's a Good Place connection in
Yes.
Maverick that I
I'm
thought
always
you'd
happy for
like.
a good place reference.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. I totally bet. Anything else that you would like? I mean, this is number one. This is a lighthearted movie. There's hardly any cussing in this movie, unlike
Yeah.
other movies we've done. It's far lighter. The good guys win. There's no
Yeah.
like moral compromising in any way. There's a
Yeah.
good guy and a bad guy. I guess the bad guys are the Iranians. I think that's probably the
Yeah.
good assumption.
I was under that impression.
Yeah. And they lose. Good guys win. Guy gets
Yeah.
girl. P-51. All is great.
Mm.
Um, Unlike some of the other movies. Anything else you'd like to say? I mean, this is really
No,
your
I
movie,
think
man.
yeah, we didn't state the obvious though, you know, the Christ-like figure in this movie, you know, it's going to be Maverick, right? Um, Sacrificing himself, yeah, and
Raising from
well,
the dead.
Rooster sacrifices himself too. I mean, it's just
That's right.
full of Jesuses.
That's right. It's full of Jesuses. That everyone is these heroes, and the good guys win, the bad guys lose.
Yeah,
Um, I hope they make more of these movies. I mean, I think they're just
yeah,
so fun, and I'm not sure how much more Tom Cruise has left in him. I don't know if he wants to die making a movie, if that's kind of his
mm,
goal. But I think one of the cool things and they did this. Well, this is another movie that I really love, and it's another friendship movie. It's Ford versus Ferrari. But I just love that movie. Matt Damon,
oh
Christian
yeah,
Bale. I
I've
just
seen it
love
a
it.
bunch. I
I
like that
adore
one
it.
too.
I adore it. And they call these like dad movies. These are movies
Oh
like really marketed for guys our age who like cars, who like planes, and they like buddies, they like friendship movies, right?
yeah,
And like
yeah,
there's a market for like people like this. Like this is,
yeah.
and I hope they make more movies like this. Like they take cars or sports or planes or
I'd
something
never
like
heard
that.
that term before as a
Yep.
dad movie, but I
It's
guess
like
it
a
makes
dad movie. It's
sense.
a father movie. And like when I
It has
saw
all the
Ford,
elements
oh
that
yeah,
appeal to us. Yeah,
when I went and saw Ford versus Ferrari, I took my
yeah.
father and my father-in-law to see it. When I
Oh,
when I saw Maverick, my dad came with me. I think
oh,
um, you were there, and a few other guys were with us. And I'm like, they need to make more movies like this. And I think
yeah,
friendship being at the heart of the story, I think is
yeah,
a good way to ground it. Because I think
yeah,
men need to be reminded that you know friends, especially male friends or people, or ones who do things like that. Like they beat Ferrari in a
yeah,
car, and they beat the Iranians by blowing up their their nuclear weapon or whatever they had going on there. So
yeah.
that's important, and I think guys need to be reminded they like those movies. So
Hmm.
it's not like morally compromising. It's not dark like Sicario, which is
Yeah.
still a good movie, but it's just kind of a movie that the good guys win and friendships at the center of the story. And I think it really does resonate with a lot of men.
Well, my wife would agree with what you just said because all the movies I always want to watch are, you know, loyal friendships that are tested through trial and you know, I love a clear good guy and a clear bad guy. I one of my beefs with a lot of movies now is that, you know, let the bad guy be the bad guy. Like let
Right.
the you know that's okay.
Yeah. The bad guy wants to be bad, it makes it fun. And I think that's why, we like Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings because there's like a clear friendship.
One of my all-time
Bond.
favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm listening to the Two Towers, and
Oh yeah.
forgotten as I was listening to it, like they really the affection and care that Legolas and Gimli and Aragon had for Merry and Pippin when they were
Yeah.
kidnapped, and how they're
Yeah.
willing to like risk their lives just to
Oh
go
yeah.
track them down.
Yeah.
They know they don't have the ring, like
Yeah.
they know Frodo has it, but
Yeah.
they're willing, and I think that's such a like Merry and Pippin have no from on the surface have no value to the greater mission,
No.
but yet their loyalty to them as
It's
partners
a
of the
it's
Fellowship is deep.
it's a virtue that I really really admire.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love the loyalty.
yeah, it's so like it's so there, and and it captures it in the movie, but in the book it's longer, right? There's
Yeah,
more of
yeah,
that development and stuff. So,
absolutely.
so yeah, so watch Maverick for the deep friendships that are there, and like you said, there's like all these Jesus characters in this story, right? I mean, there's all these people willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, So
Yeah.
it's all good,